Well, good afternoon, everybody. Good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. As you can see, I'm canning again, and I'm canning some of the older jars again with the older lids because I like experimenting around. If you buy pickles or anything in a glass jar with a lid on, a sealed lid, and that's been vacuum sealed, the chances are you can reuse that lid. Like I said, I don't recommend it, buy new, but I like experimenting around because there's some people out there, and I know there was a point in my life I really couldn't even afford to go out and buy jars, but I had plenty of stuff from the store and to be able to reuse. You just have to make sure that after you do it, you keep an eye on those jars, because if there's any type of botulism or they don't seal right, the top will not seal and will pop, and that should probably be thrown out. If they don't seal right away within the first few hours, that's edible. And I would have no problem eating that because, like here, the beans have been boiled in that. If it's a matter of days or weeks or months down the line, no, don't eat that product and throw it out. Okay, I've got a jar here ready and I set up the camera here so I can just show you kind of what I'm doing, filling the jars, and I like to shake them up a little bit. Let everything settle in there a little bit. Add a few more because you're going to leave about an inch or so of head space. Then of course I put a little bit of salt in. This is a small pint jar, so about half of a teaspoon I'll put in. Now I'll grab my water that's been boiling here and I'll pour it into the jar, and I don't know if you can see it come up, but like I said, leave about an inch of headspace, and sometimes the cap part on the top here is fairly close in a lot of jars to about an inch, 3/4 to an inch, and fill it up to there. And then of course take your spatula here, and this is special for canning. Run it around the outside, because with you pouring the water in and the beans in there, there's going to be air bubbles, and it's just a whole lot better to get as much of those air bubbles out before you put a lid on it. So just work your way around the outside of it here, and then I'm going to fish one of the tops out of here. As you can see, this was a crunchy pickle jar, and the seal looks pretty good, and it's got a few little dark spots on it. Like I said, I'm an experimenter, and I like to be able to experiment a little bit for those people out there who have sometimes. I was a big pickle eater, and so I generally had a lot of jars, and I found out that I was able to use at least the old lids for a go around in that. Like I said, my recommendation always is buy new lids. They're cheap. In the Philippines here, I have a problem getting anything and so you got to order. Like I said, I just ordered some jars and lids and through Lazada, and so anybody that's living in Asia, you've got a good outlet, and I know most of the jars now that are available in America are probably made in China. Yeah, use this up a little bit. Add a few more beans in there. And we'll add a little salt again. That's not necessarily a recommendation. Like I said, I like the salt flavor to it, and so that's why I add salt. Some people don't, and that are maybe really salt conscious. And let's get some water here again. I've always been one to kind of experiment when it comes to saving food, preparing food, and that. And I'm basically kind of a survivalist, and that. And to let anybody know, the Philippines is probably the most survival type environment I've ever lived in, just because of the way people live here as a third world country. A lot of them are in survival mode 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So, see if I can get a lid out of here. Of course, this is my Tostitos salsa jars. And they worked out real good the last time. So I'm just trying it again. And let's grab another jar here. And what I do is I pour the hot water back into the pressure cooker, and I better turn on the heat here to the pressure cooker to get that water boiling. And again, we'll fill up one. I'm not going to go through all the jars here with you on the video. That would be way too long, but you kind of get the idea for the canning. And I'm sure I looked at Lasada and all these things, the spatula, the little magnet here and everything is available through them. I must admit it's kind of pricey, but that's kind of par for the course here, and especially to get canning stuff if you want to get it here in the Philippines. Okay, put a little salt in. And let's go get some water. And do not use jars that have not been pressure cooked. You have to realize that it's a special glass that can take the heat that these jars are made out of. And I'm going around the outside again, and that basically, like I said, gets rid of some of the oxygen bubbles that are in there. And then let's fish out another lid here. A couple of these lids have some spots in them, so I'm kind of curious whether they will seal or not. But I know on the last round I had real good luck with it. And I actually have them out up on the shelf here. And I do just go in and test them every day, and all you have to do to test them here is, I'm not sure if you can see here, but if you can press down that top, if it's bubbled up a little bit, and especially now where it's been a week since these canned and that means that it hasn't sealed. There is not a vacuum in there, and the food will spoil very rapidly. Your safe bet is throw it out. If it happens within a few hours after you can, you don't really have to worry about that. You shouldn't have to anyway. We eat it. And I've had a couple of the cans do exactly that, where they didn't seal. And of course, we just add it to our meal for the day. And I'll finish up this jar here. Okay. Again, add a little salt. And then we'll get some of the hot water that I boil the jars in. And we'll fill her up to, like I said, right about there is good. Leave about 3/4 to an inch. All the manuals say leave an inch of headroom and that. Take your spatula again. And it's nice if you can get a nice little skinny one. The big spatulas like this don't fit in the jars too well. And just kind of go around the outside. What this does also is help kind of settle the beans in there. But it gets out a lot of those air bubbles that are around the outside here. We're all set there. Let me get the other small lid out of here. And again, this is a small pickle jar. Now this lid, if you can see, looks really good. And the seal looks really good all the way around. If there's any defects in the seal, you'll notice it right away. And I'll show you one here that I had canned. Yeah. Of what a defect looks like right here. You see the seal is peeling away from the actual container. I hope you can all get that on video here. That seal is peeled. No good. No good. Don't even try it. It's no way that will seal. I'm going to step in back of the camera here, and it's already longer than I expected. I hope this has helped anybody that wants to can or wants to get started in canning. Thanks for viewing my video. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back with you again.